Welcome back to Small Town Sound, the podcast where we talk with music educators who prove that you do not need a massive school or a giant budget to build something extraordinary. I'm your host, Steve Brown, and today's guest is truly one of the legendary figures in music education. Our guest has spent more than 4 decades shaping band programs, mentoring directors, serving organizations across the country, and helping elevate music education in every level. He served as Director of Music for Spring ISD near Houston, Texas, taught at multiple high schools, served on the board of directors for the Midwest Clinic, helped coordinate the National Concert Band Festival, and was inducted into the Bands of America Hall of Fame alongside his wife, Gail. Today, we are honored to welcome Mr. Richard Crain to Small Town Sound. Dr. Crain, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Steve. I'm looking forward to it. And as I said previously,
Absolutely.
Thanks for all you did for the Midwest Clinic small school track.
Absolutely. We had a blast there, and I appreciate it, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for that opportunity.
Oh, well, we're the ones that are grateful.
I always like to start at the beginning. So in your case, this was more than 50 years ago. So what drew you to music education, and when did you realize that was going to be your track?
I'm sure that people are tired of me telling about my history, Steve, but I was raised in a very small town in South Texas. In fact, it was really a community rather than a town, a settlement. And I don't ever remember anybody taking credit for being mayor of the town. Anyway, there was no music in the schools. It was very primitive right after World War II. And I was a sophomore in high school, and the school district decided to start a band program in 1949. And again, this had a lot, World War II had a lot of influence on that. So I said yes. I didn't want to play football because football was pretty primitive in those days. And so I joined the band as a sophomore in high school at beginner. So I never was able to develop my playing skills, although I worked hard at it and ended up doing okay. But in order to have an ensemble big enough to play anything, we went down into the lower grades and had 8th grade participating. It was one band program, so we had 7th graders also in order to have enough bodies on the stage. And I fell in love with it. I just was enamored with the music and its effect. It had a profound effect on me. I actually directed church choir at that time as a high school kid. It's a small church. And there was a program on radio in those days called Paul Lavelle and the Band of America. And there were 48 players, supposedly, representing the 48 states at that time. And I would look forward every week to hearing the band play overtures and marches, and just fell in love with it. And I then went on to college after that. The school was so small, there were only 6 in my high school graduating class. And I was in the top 30% academically. I couldn't make the top spot. And went to college in San Antonio, Texas. It's the big city near where I grew up. So it affected my life and changed the whole trajectory of my life, just being in high school band.
What, when you think back on the first couple of years, what did you think affected your career and your decision-making process throughout the rest of your career? I mean, was there a couple of things or one thing that you thought, this is how I'm going to do this for the rest of my life?
Well, I was pretty young and impressionable, and I just happened to go to a school that had a wonderful choral program, but all the instrumental teachers, professors were all adjuncts, so there was no full-time instrumental staff. Now, I didn't know all this. As a student, I would just go here and go there and do that. But I appreciate all the experience I had in choral music, because it taught me a lot of things about phrasing and composers, and exposed me also to being in San Antonio, which was like New York City to me at the time, that I was able to go to a symphony orchestra and hear a symphony orchestra live. And, oh my goodness. And the teaching in those days after World War II, no, not the Civil War, after World War II was just getting established. In the United States, there were a lot of great band programs in Illinois, Indiana, where William Ravelli started. And I'm not sure I'm answering the questions, but it was a slowly, I actually thought about going into the ministry when I was a youngster, and doors shut and just didn't open, and it seemed like I was being directed toward this. And I loved music, and I wanted to teach it to other kids because of the experience that I had.
You've made such a huge impact on music education in the last 50 years. One of the things that you've done is you've made a huge impact on small schools, and you're now starting the National Association for Small School Music Directors or Band Directors. And I'm wondering what makes small communities special when it comes to building music programs?
No, the small school, that's the fine arts center, if you want to think about it, in the whole community. Everybody draws to that because usually they don't have string programs in small schools, and the choirs are pretty small, and if at all, depending on the curriculum choices. And it's really the fine arts center of the community, where all the parents can come together and see their kid doing really well. You may ask me this later, but the benefits of playing a musical instrument have been well documented in data that's available, how it benefits other subject areas. And I always refer to band as being an academic discipline because of the rigor that it displays and requires. In spring, this was decades ago, but we were able to get honors credit for 2 years of band enrollment because of the academic rigor and the extra activities that the kids can involve themselves, performance opportunities and theory opportunities and so forth. Now curriculums have changed and grown, and it's pretty much established. The impact that it has on kids' lives cannot be adequately measured. I'm not sure if this is. I spent 15 years in Central Texas in what could be considered a small school because I was sort of on my own at a class 4A school, which would be 5A today, but I was pretty much the only director there. And although I had a couple of assistants that were young and inexperienced, and that the town community rallied around the band program, and we had our own special name, and we had no corps style marching in those days, or military marching. It's just different things, and the community never know what Crazy Crain was going to come up with on Friday nights. So I always had a full audience on Friday night's halftime show, where they didn't want to get up and go to the concession stand. They wanted to see what little nuggets that we were presenting. And I always drew the kids into it too. Let's get together, kids, and what do you think we ought to do? And Elvis show. Now this is in the '60s, okay, and that sort of thing. And that community, because of that, and again, this sounds pretentious. I don't mean for it to be, but that community of 10,000 people sent us to the Rose Parade in 1976, 73, 74. We marched in 74, Rose Parade in Pasadena, California. Now that's a lot of money. In fact, I was declared Man of the Year by the Chamber of Commerce at the end of that year. I had no idea. And the chairman or president of the Chamber of Commerce said, "This is the first time we've ever given this award to anybody that took so much money out of our community." So I didn't know how to take that, but we got some national recognition for the school, our band program, and the community did that, and the parents did that. and we had Lions Club and Rotary Club and all sorts of other civic organizations that joined in to support us in that. And the football team was great too, so we didn't take anything away from them.
Yeah, that's great. My first school that I taught at, there was 120, or no, I'm sorry, there was 220 kids in the whole school, and we had about 60 kids in the band or 50 or 60 whenever I took over. So it was a good, thriving program when I took over. But one thing that just absolutely floored me that first year was about January or February. I had a group of 3 kids that I'm still in contact with today, but 3 kids came to my office and just were almost in tears and just telling me how much they appreciated the band and how it was a family, and they looked at me as a father figure. I was 22 or 23 years old, and they're looking at me as a father figure. That absolutely shook me to my core. I couldn't believe that kids could want to belong to something that much. Now, I'm sure you've had hundreds of those same experiences. Can you put those, maybe 1 or 2 of those experiences into words?
Well, it sounds pretentious, Steve. I don't mean for it to be. I'm just very grateful. But I have gone back to this community in Central Texas countless times to band reunions or class reunions, and if I go back to a class reunion, it's mostly band students that are there, and they're all grandparents now, so we have great, last summer I went back to one. I took one of my grandchildren, drove me up to Central Texas, and it was a great time of reunion and thanking me, and very humbling experience, the impact you have on them. And I just second what you said. That what you said was a great testimony, Steve, of your own experience. And but reunions are neat because that means it meant enough for the kids to come back. And I just had last fall a reunion of my first class here in the spring. It was in 1979, and the host father had videotaped everything we did. Now, this is pretty primitive back in the 70s as far as recording. We have all the technology today, but it was really neat to see these grandparents sitting on the couch and everything, cheering on the band performance at whatever in 1979 or 1980. And in 1980, we got to go to the Performance Midwest Clinic. And we just resurrected recordings of that. They were all on LPs in those days. And so my first trumpet player in those days just got all of our program on technology. They'll be on a USB drive. And I've been listening to them, and we're pretty good. And that's where I met, but our friendship did not materialize until later years. But John Whitwell had his Huron band from Michigan, Ann Arbor,
yeah,
as well as the other band there in town. And and then Tom Friskillo, who's a big presence in the American Bandmasters Association, had his band from Hattiesburg, Mississippi there. And for 50 years later to be thinking about that and all the connections you made. And today, John Whitwell and I are very dear friends, and served on the board of directors of Midwest together. And when I was president of the Midwest board, we were able, that's during the period that we instituted the small scoop track at Midwest, which is a permanent addition. 2 years ago they did I'm sorry, 2 years ago they did a survey, and those sessions, like you participated and presented, they came out number one, and as far as the attendees wanting to hear more of, and they listed it as the number one priority. So you had a lot to do with that.
Well, yeah. Once again, I appreciate everything that you guys allowed us to do, and we thought we had something. We thought we had something nice to talk about, but once we got up there and actually experienced everything, it was just it was a bit surreal and life changing for some kids and life changing for myself as well. So I just appreciate and thank you for everything that you did for us.
Well, you did more for us, and I'm just glad the kids. It's about the kids.
Yeah,
Everything
absolutely.
should be about the kids. Our students.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So speaking about small school band directors, I came from a small school, and I actually teach in the school that I graduated from, which is really cool. I've taught there for the last 19 years now. But a lot of my friends did not want to be in small schools, and as we were getting jobs, some of them were actually disappointed as they were kind of stuck in a small school. So I as well as I do that you don't get stuck in a small school, you can thrive in a small school. And I was just wondering if you thought that there were, can you think of anything that is advantageous about being in a small school compared to a large school?
Great place to learn. Uh, I think you'll agree with this. The real impactful learning begins after you leave college. There's just no way you can prepare for every occasion, every incident, or whatever. It's the experience is what you don't have, and that's what you leave college and start gaining in your little repertoire. I'll tell you one thing. This is not funny. You get a small town like that, you get all sorts of food items that are really great.
Yeah.
I had this lady in Central Texas, and I got the best tamales in the world. They're all homemade, and I pigged out with them, and my wife and I enjoyed them tremendously. There's such relationships that you have. Could you have an impact on? Well, you have an impact on the whole school if you're in a large school. It's got 5,000 or 2,000 or whatever. But your impact on a small school is dramatic because you have the majority of the student body in your band program. And so you want to utilize that both in a positive way, not negative, but you also don't have quite the pressure you have in a large school of 6A or 5A, higher their nomenclature. And I think that it's a place where you can really learn on the job, and the kids can help you do that. When I started teaching, as I told you, I didn't have very good college instruction, and I was arguing with kids. They were right and I was wrong, about this clarinet overture or whatever. And so fortunately I could do it in a quiet community, smaller community. Nobody found out about it. But anyway, I think you can learn a lot. I always encourage young directors coming out of college to be an assistant first and let the head director take the questions from parents and do the administrative work and so forth, so you can actually learn how to teach without any encumbrance. If you are in a small school situation, the problem is that you will allow yourself to become isolated, and that's where you need to find mentors to not let yourself become accepting of mediocrity as a standard. Because if you're by yourself in an isolated situation, those sounds coming back at you can kind of become, well, that's it. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then you start accepting. But so get a mentor. Any state is small enough that you can go 50 miles or whatever and find somebody to come in and listen to your program. Sometimes there's a piano teacher in town that's got good ears that can come in and say, hey, that doesn't sound very good. Or, yeah, you're on the right track. I'm not sure that answered your question, but I always, if you go out and you don't want to become a head director in a large school, I'll tell you that, but in a small school, you can handle that. And kids in small communities are so appreciative. I'm in contact with small schools like Illinois and Oklahoma and Arkansas, Louisiana, and I just sent one to Iowa, I believe, an email and to get some feedback from them. You know, what can we do with the National Association of Small Schools? What can we do for you that you really need? And I'm hoping we can fill that little void that you're just talking about. If you're isolated, is there a website I can go and ask this question and get that answer? Because we had some really smart people working this. Rebecca Warren in North Dakota taught in small schools in North Dakota and Alabama, and Stan Malden taught in a small school in Northwest Texas, and then my experience.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up Becky Warren. Whenever I was at her clinic this past December at Midwest, she said one of the best things to do as a small school band director is to play at everything. And she said, I'll even take my kids to play at a ribbon cutting at the local lemonade stand, which I thought was awesome. Yeah. I mean, you never know where those playing opportunities are going to happen, and you just make sure that you take them when they do.
That's investing.
Yeah.
That's investing, and you get, I was in Arkansas last summer for their ABA convention, and this quintet came out, and they had this special book of easy, recognizable tunes that had been written for really small ensembles. And in this little town in Arkansas, this group, and they're on their own. That's what another neat factor is. They're on their own. They do this without the director's help. And they go to rest homes, nursing homes, civic clubs, everywhere, and play for them. And they're building points. They're investing. You're right. That's right. Very good.
Yeah. So you've done this for a long time, and I know I've done it for 24 years, and I know there's every few years I get to where I need something that I need to drive me. Not compared to or not when it relates to the kids. The kids are always I'm always happy to do whatever kids want me to do. But as far as the job gets grueling and it gets hectic and it gets chaotic, what kept you passionate to teach over the span of your career?
And by the way, I had 44 years experience when I retired in the year 2000, but at 92 years old, I'm going to grab the last 30 years also. This is my 70th year in music education.
Wow. Gosh.
I loved every minute of it. Tim Leitzenheiser, I'm not sure this is relevant, but last year I was in a session and a student said, I've been teaching 8 years, and what do you do about burnout? And I thought that he was going to develop more energy than an Atlas rocket taking off. He was I will never use that word of burnout. And I'm not sure this is answer your question, but when I was supervisor, would give my middle school directors, I would pay for a day of substitute to take their place and substitute for them. And they would go, the deal was they were to go to another program or two and observe for a full day. Yep. And to get re-energized. And sometimes we get in the same routine. We have to refresh, and repeating the same thing over and over, sometimes we don't realize that we're getting to a rut. And I would give them time off to either go see an exemplary program, or maybe they wanted to see a band program, and that would energize them also. But mostly just look for change. The word change is inevitable. Okay, H. Robert Reynolds told me this one time. Change is inevitable. Growth is our option. How we react to change, and so we need to utilize change to keep us fresh. I never had a problem with it. Every day was new, and when I came to spring, I had a whole different constituency to deal with, and every student was taking private lessons, and it was just a gold mine. It was like a kid in a candy shop, whereas where I came from, I was the private lesson teacher, and the conductor and everything else, counselor, sometimes medical doctor, and psychiatrist. But I think change is one thing that we need to consider in a positive way. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. You've served on many different leadership positions, and you've seen thousands of music programs and thousands of music directors. Is there something that you can point to say this is what makes successful directors and successful programs?
I want to go back a second also. Never stop learning about your craft, keeping that fresh. There's always something you can learn. I learned something about 2 hours ago. I was talking to one of the directors that used to work for me, and I'd either forgotten or didn't realize the strategies this director was utilizing. And never stop learning about the craft. I'm sorry, ask your question again.
That's okay. That sparked something else. I just had a kid come up to me today, and they were signing up for summer private lessons, and they said, "Hey, can you do a Friday private lesson?" And I said, "Well, it just depends. I have a lesson of my own that I want to do," and it was like I hit them in the head with a 2x4. They're like, "What? You still take lessons?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I still take lessons on a couple different instruments. They're not weekly lessons, but they're things that I like to meet with other people and see how I can grow and what I can steal from them."
I was one more in that line. I was talked to another director. One thing I love to do is go around the different bands and work marches, and most of them are playing Sousa marches, and I love to help them prepare a Sousa march because they're different, and and one of the great clinics that we did at Midwest was when our adult band was the demonstration band for retired Lieutenant Colonel Jason Fettig did at Midwest, and it was just maybe the best clinic ever there, not because of us, but because he's able to demonstrate everything. And we were talking this morning, and the importance of being organized. If you get in front of a bunch of kids and you didn't do your homework, you tend to get frustrated, and then you start blaming them, and it's your fault. It's my fault. That I can go back and give many examples of where I really didn't study the score, or didn't have everything marked out to take advantage of it, and so much time here and there, and to be organized. And I went back and looked and thought about my career, and every time that I would really get upset at kids and everything, it was really my fault. I wasn't prepared, and I was jumping around, and the frustration builds between us. Be organized, be prepared. Can't overdo that.
Yeah.
And
you've had some
time in yours.
Yeah. You've had some incredible performances at Midwest and the Tournament of Roses Parade and national festivals, and I'm sure Texas festivals as well. What I think I already know the answer to this, but maybe you can put it better into words. What are the biggest memories? Are they the performances, or are they the people that you performed with?
Well, of course, performances are memorable. Kevin Sedetall at Michigan State was in my band, and he said that the experience at Midwest when he was a high school student still rings with him as one of the most memorable experiences and rewarding they'd ever had. But I think back about just watching the kids take pride in what they were doing, and I'm not sure this is relevant, but when we came back from Washington, my last year of teaching, and I was about to move into administration, the seniors came to me and said, "We'd like to do a musical." I said, "A musical?" "Yes, we'd like to do the Music Man musical." And I said, "Oh, absolutely not. I cannot help you. I'm about to transition in administration." And we argued back and forth. And finally I said, "Okay, you're on your own. Do it. But don't expect any help from me. And so I think that everybody at Westfield High School will understand and remember that that probably was one of the best, if not the best, presentations ever at that school, and it was all student-led, administered, rehearsed, organized, everything. And I don't know why, but I take great credit in that because they loved band so much, and it was all the band kids. In fact, my middle son had a little bit of speech. He's fine, but really shy, introverted. And he did that opening scene. He doesn't know the territory. And he didn't miss a word and everything. It was, his mother and I were just, yay. And I did a cameo appearance, but I won't go into that because it was pretty embarrassing. But I loved it. Anyway, I just took a lot of pride in that our kids loved band so much. That band at Westfield High School so much, they wanted to do this as a go-away present to themselves. So what better than the music band?
Yeah, it's incredible what kids can do when you just get out of their way.
And seeing kids in the Pasadena, we marched at Disney World, and I would walking through the band as we were still waiting to go on. And candidly, a lot of those kids had never been out of Atascosa County. Bell County. They'd never even been out of the county, in 1973, and we were in Disneyland in California, and they couldn't hardly play their horns because they were just looking up, and just seeing that and giving them that experience was worth the trip out there.
Yeah.
Now,
so you
I
mentioned.
can tell you some other things that happened that are humorous now that were tragic at the time.
Well, you could tell us you could tell us anything you want to tell us. We're all ears.
Well, no, I don't want to bore your arms. However, at a football game one night, the band was the center of spirit at Belton High School, and it was homecoming, and it's just. They said, Mr. Crain, my dad works at an army base, and he can get us smoke bombs at hide armies, and we'll let those things explode on the top of these big run-through poles. And I said, of course not. No. You have no idea. Just on and on. And I forgot about it. And so Friday night came, very still night, no breeze, and I looked, they pulled this big run-through sign for the football team to run through, and there was something on top of each pole. I started out there. Well, the football team decided to run through the sign, and they pulled these lanyards, and this billowing stuff went up in the air, and I thought, oh no. But it's a chemical that's made to hide armies and tanks, and it just sunk right on the ground, and there was this green haze. And I couldn't see my hand in front of my face, and I'm not exaggerating. And I got on my hands and knees and started crawling where I thought was the sideline, and looked back, and this green blob just sat there and slowly drifted toward the home stands. And there was parents were screaming, and wives were screaming, and anyway, I think that it never dissipated. I think it's down around Yucatan Peninsula this day. Anyway, so we had a public hanging on Monday in the parking lot outside the dance hall. No, I'm just kidding.
I love talking to band directors because they all have stories that just they're shocking and they're funny and just full of human experience and human nature. It's just awesome to talk to other people that have those experiences that probably shouldn't happen, but they did, and they're funny, and they're memories for a lot of different people.
I got a beautiful lamp made out of a bassoon for my going away present. Now, Steve, I have no idea where that bassoon came from. That was 25 years ago. I'm not going to ask.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Love it. This alumni band that I work with now from Spring School is a lot of fun. I never miss a chance, to bring up some good memories to some of the directors in there that I had worked for me. Anyway.
You brought up organization as one of the things that band directors need to be successful. Is that I started to ask you, is that the one thing that you see with most successful programs and most successful band directors, is that they're organized and well prepared?
I think so, and and all that goes within that, the organization that takes place off the podium, behind the scenes, with students, with parents, having everything lined up. Excuse me. And there are a lot of band programs that are really great at that. You don't have to be, an anal about it, but if you have all of those things in place, then you put and have it organized upon that you don't have to worry about those details and minutia, that you can focus on preparing the ensemble. And a lot of directors get involved with these other side events and issues, and it distracts from their purpose of teaching those kids how to play their horns. Tone quality is the single most important element in learning a musical instrument. You cannot tune, you can't balance, you can't do blend, anything. And I'm off the track here, I'm sorry, but
no, that's okay.
William Ravelli, and when we first started the National Concert Band Festival, and I need to give credit to my wife who did all the work and I took all the credit. And
that's how it usually works.
God rest her soul, bless her heart. It was a panel, Ray Kramer and William Ravelli, and who was at Michigan State and Illinois, Harry Beechen, and some others. And he said, almost like an afterthought after he'd given his little dissertation, he said, tone quality, that's what it's all about. And we were honoring him because he had the national champion band at Hobart, Indiana, in the 30s. And I was talking to the director this morning about it, and you have to conquer that first. And the director must be engaged in every element of the rehearsal. So whether you call it warm-up, fundamental building, or whatever, you've got to be engaged in that. And again, an example, I was in a band hall several years ago, and the director took care of every housekeeping chore in the world, including marching back to his office and run, while the kids were playing these exercises that had been assigned to them. And if you looked at the kids, they were completely disinterested, and they were just going through the motions. So there was nothing positive that came out of that warm-up session except they raised the temperature of the horn. And so that's part of organization. And I just, more than anything else, when I was speaking to a college group, tone quality. That sound is most characteristic of the instrument played.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get anywhere.
Right.
I used to go to part of our state that had no resources years ago, and the clarinets, for instance, it's the single most significant instrument in the wind ensemble, I think. And they were so far out of tune that the entire band sounded, their sound affected the whole band. And it doesn't take that much to get a clarinet going. Because of my early experience with the clarinet, not knowing anything on my master's degree, I made sure that I did a term paper or dissertation on the clarinet. And its important and characteristic sound and so forth.
Well, we're coming to the end of this interview, but before we go, can you is there anything that you'd like to say to young band directors starting out? Just any types of words of encouragement or words of advice, and I mean, all they have to do is watch this podcast and they can hear 40 minutes of advice from you. But is there any specific things that you would like to say?
Number one, it's the greatest profession in the world. I'll compare it with any. Rewarding to be a doctor or a surgeon, yeah. You don't realize that you have more impact on a student in a high school, middle school, than any other teacher. They may have a 1 year or max 2 years or even one semester, but most of the time you will have them 4 years of high school. And you will have more impact and influence on them for good. And the band hall is a social, an area where kids practice social activities together in the band hall. They learn social skills. During COVID, parents around here were saying, my kids are totally different. After 1 week, they missed that interaction in the band hall with their fellow students. And she said, they're not even the same people. I don't even know my children. So that's the impact that you're having. It's the greatest profession in the world. You have to believe that. You have to refresh yourself all the time and never stop learning about your craft, because there's always something coming out that's new and a better way to do it. Arnold Palmer, I think it was, said they came up with them a new golf club. He'd say, well, yeah, let me try it. While others say, no, I've got my club and I'm not going to change. And mentors, find mentors. That was the first advice I got after 2 years of failure. A man came up to me and said, how many times have you ever asked anybody to hear your band? Do you think you know everything? And I thought I was John Philip Sousa reincarnated. And then you have to learn what you don't know. And I couldn't encourage you more. And there are 2 jobs that are open in this area, and if I was a couple of years younger, I think I'd go apply for them because I miss being with kids so much. But you have to like kids too. You have to like them and understand them. And a lot of times, those that are not married don't understand. People that are married don't understand them. But I'm not sure, Steve, but I've really enjoyed this, and I just hope that with the passion, I don't think I've ever lost that. It's not me. It's what it's done for me. Thank you very much again for all you've done, and I hope that we can see you and a lot of others at Midwest Clinic this year as
Absolutely.
we continue to formulate and organize the National Association of Small School Band programs.
Yeah.
We want to help. We're not into raising money or fees or anything. We just want to help because I know what they go through.
And I think that's the most incredible thing about what you guys are doing is that you're just there to help. You're not getting anything from it. You've already achieved what you wanted to achieve. You're just wanting to help other people, and it's so refreshing to see.
Yeah, well, every day. And I give a lot of credit to Stan and Rebecca for their leadership. We just had a Zoom meeting last night, just staying on top of things and organizing. And we certainly covet your help and leadership too, Steve.
Absolutely. Dr. Crain, thank you so much for spending time with us today. It's been so awesome to hear you talk with such passion about something that you've done for so long, and it's encouraging to me. It's encouraging to anybody that listens to this. I look up to you, and I just can't believe sometimes how much you impact other people.
Well, thank you very much. I've been very honored, Steve. And just remember, all my mentors are younger than I am. all my mentors today are younger than I am. And that's a neat thing. I go out, everybody that I talked to today were younger than I am, and they all gave me good advice and some little details. But thank you, Steve. I admire your work greatly, and I cannot thank you enough for what you did for Midwest, that you were there, and we're counting on you to help us more in the future. And thank you, everybody, and all the best to everybody. Have a great summer. See you back in September.
Absolutely. If you've liked what you've heard and you have somebody that you think would be great for this show, you can email me. My email will be in the description below the video. And once again, thank you to Dr. Crain, and thank you for tuning in to Small Town Sound.